Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
We'll just wait a minute or two to make sure everyone gets in.
Folks, as you're coming in, if you are not a presenter, please turn off your video and mute your audio. Thank you.
All righty. Well, I guess I'll start this off. I'm Eric Melly. I'm the new Oregon Southwest Washington A4LE chapter president this year. And I'd like to welcome you all to our first virtual tour of the Beatrice Morrow Cannady Elementary School. And just to restate, a little housekeeping before we start. Please make sure your audio's on mute, your video's off, and then if you have any questions during the presentation, you can type them in the chat. We will conclude with a question and answer period, so please write down any if you would like to ask them in person. We really appreciate you registering for our event, even though we cannot currently tour the school properties in person. This brand new North Clackamas Elementary School was finished in 2018, and our virtual tour subcommittee filmed the building just last month. We'll begin with a presentation by Brett Lundmark of Brick Architecture and immediately follow with a viewing of the tour video we shot. Beatrice Morrow Cannady Elementary School was built by Robinson Construction and designed by Brick Architecture. KPFF Portland handled the civil and structural design. HHPR designed the landscape architecture and outdoor play. Interface provided mechanical, internal plumbing, and electrical design. And Web Food Service design supplied the kitchen. Before I turn the presentation over to Brett, I'd like to take a moment to update you on our upcoming event schedule. On October 20th, 21st, or 22nd, we're still hammering out the details. We'll host a virtual tour of Sherwood High School, which is also designed by Brick Architecture. And then keep your eyes peeled for an official invitation. Also look for an invite in mid-November to a dual tour of May Street Elementary in Hood River County and Gresham High School. May Street Elementary was designed by OPSIS and Gresham High School was designed by BLRB Architects. Lastly, I'd like to thank our platinum sponsors, Bassetti Architects, O Planning and Design, and PCS Structural Solutions. In addition, I'd like to thank our gold sponsors, Lease Crutcher Lewis, KPFF Portland, Malum Architects, and PAE. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Brett.
All right, thanks, Eric. Hi, everyone. I'm Brett Lundmark with Brick Architecture, and I will share my screen here. We want to give a brief overview of the project, and Dan Hess, the principal of the project, I think is going to start us off with a little introduction.
Thanks, Brett. So thanks everyone for being here today to do this sort of unusual virtual tour. I think probably everybody knows we're going to do a quick PowerPoint, and then there's a video previously filmed that we're going to show. I just wanted to say a few things about the project, in that it was kind of a unique design process for us because it was basically based on another prototype design. And it was unusual because there wasn't really a large design team. And when they started the project, the idea was basically, well, we like that other school, just figure it out so it fits on this site. But there was a small group of folks, assistant superintendent, the person who was in charge of elementary ed for the district. And in this small group, we sat down and sort of went through what were the strengths of that other school, Scouters Mountain, and then what were some lessons learned, and then what were some things we could do differently. And what came out of that was a lot of subtle things that were changed to make this project unique, which hopefully you'll see as Brett goes through the PowerPoint. But it's one of these typical schools, you know, in a district like North Clackamas, where the building right now is in kind of a rural neighborhood, but the town of Happy Valley is rapidly encroaching on it. So the idea was to create a building that kind of related to the rural landscape, but also could really be a neighborhood school when when the neighborhood catches up to it. So I guess I'll turn it over to Brett now to kind of walk you through the building, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dan. Yeah, so we'll just kind of go through some of these early photographs that we have of the project. And I'll start off with the plan of the project and some of the basic elements. So it's a 63,000 square foot school. It's designed to accommodate up to 550 students and 60 staff members. It's basically broken up into two wings with a classroom wing on the east side with a library in the center, and all of the classrooms, a two-story classroom wing arranged around the library. And then administrative spaces and a hallway connecting over to the other parts of the program of the building, including a cafeteria, gymnasium, kitchen, and other support spaces. So in here is a image of the south side of the building. Here's the entry in the center here, and you can see the two-story classroom wing in the background. And we really tried to tie the whole building together, even though there's a lot of things going on in the profile of the building. All the elements of the building were designed to be very distinct. There's still this grounding in the ground-faced CMU that tied the whole building together. So as you can see, a little bit more zoomed out view of the building and some of the different massings. So the cafeteria here is on the left side of the entry, and then the classroom wing here on the right side. And moving on to the interiors, you can see the inside of the cafeteria. It's really designed to be opened up, and this is kind of a theme that is carried throughout the building, is very open, welcoming environment. So this is really designed to bring a lot of natural light into the space, as well as provide a lot of views out to the exterior. And then also, like a consistent theme around the schools is just the materiality and the use of glue laminated structure and cross-laminated timber roof decks that are exposed on the interior. And then moving into the library. So one of the key elements of the school is really the library that's in the center of the classroom wing, where all the classroom and spaces around open into the library. And it's a two-story volume that really anchors the school and is like a focal point of school activity. And then moving into some of the individual classroom spaces, this is one of the smaller flexible classroom spaces in between that we captured for different uses, whether it's like extended learning or just a workroom for teachers. And here's another image. So in between, along the edges of the library and in between the classrooms are extended learning spaces that really are kind of built into the edges of the library. So it just like enhances the connectivity and community around the library, and really allows it to function as an extension of the classrooms.
And this was one of those things that we learned through the design process from the previous prototype that had similar extended learning areas, but not as successful because they were maybe too open to the library. So they wanted the visual connection, but the acoustic connection was a problem. So just a slight modification have made them a lot more successful.
Yeah, so having Scotter's Mountain as a prototype, it really helped us be able to see what was working well at that school and be able to improve on it. So this is like one of those areas where we were able to use the same design, but enhance it and make it function better. And I think that's it for our presentation, and I'll turn it back over to Eric for a little video walkthrough of the space.
All right. I posted the direct link to the video in the chat in case you're having audio or video issues that prevent you from watching it. You could watch it directly, but hopefully this will work. Hi, I'm Eric Melly, the new president of the Oregon Southwest Washington chapter of the Association for Learning Environments. We're here at the Beatrice Morrow Cannady Elementary School in the city of Happy Valley in the North Clackamas School District. This new school will serve the existing and new residents of this area, which is under a boom of residential development. It sits on the edge of the southeastern edge of the urban growth boundary of the Portland metro area and has the capacity for approximately 550 students. Come on inside and we'll check out all the new features of this great school.
Welcome to the Beatrice Morrow Cannady Elementary School. We're going to be starting off the tour here in the entry vestibule, and this is Beatrice Cannady herself, an early prominent civil rights activist here in Oregon, and such an inspirational figure in Oregon history and hopefully to the students here. One of the major themes throughout the school is an openness and connection to the exterior. And you'll see that in a lot of these spaces, especially here in the main stair hall and cafeteria, where the building volumes have really been articulated to create views to the exterior, as well as provide a lot of opportunity for natural daylight in these spaces. The gymnasium was really a success in combining the architectural and structural elements of the building. Here, the glue laminated wood trusses and CLT wood decking really come together in a unique way that lends a lot of character to the space. As unique as the gymnasium is, though, the real defining element within the school is the library. It's the focal component of the building, and the district's goal was really to establish it as the central hub of the classroom wing. The library itself is a two-story volume that effectively joins both levels of the classroom wing. All of the classrooms surround and open onto either the library or extended learning spaces within the library. I think this really results in a connectivity to the library resources that encourages students and staff to embrace the space as an extension of their classrooms.
One of our earliest concepts for the library was integrating this idea of a treehouse. I think over time, the idea inspired many of the interior features, but ultimately it evolved into some of the more playful elements that really help define the character of the space.
And here we can see one of the extended learning spaces that either open onto or overlook the library. Essentially, they're common areas outside the classrooms that are integrated into the edges of the library to serve as additional teaching spaces. And as such, they really utilize building elements to carve out smaller scale spaces within the larger volume for smaller group instruction.
In many of the spaces around the library, such as the conference room here, we looked for opportunities to create windows into the library. The goal here was really to provide that connection and help foster a sense of community, but it also allowed us to capture some borrowed daylight into these other spaces. The classroom wing is divided into 4 classroom pods on each corner of the building that more or less mirror each other. But we were able to take advantage of the additional area in between the classroom pods to create some more flexible spaces, such as this early language development classroom. The classroom pods mirror each other. Within each pod is some amount of variety. For example, where this first grade classroom is located, the building projects out on the ground level. This was really to help accommodate the larger kindergarten classrooms, but it also allowed for some separate areas to be set up within those classrooms.
During the design process, we thought about how we could include artwork into the building. We have an original piece built into the library created by an illustrator named John Vogel. And here we can see a piece created by Ilde Morin, a local fiber artist that generously allowed us to recreate a few of her works around the building. It was actually really valuable to be able to work with these artists during the design process, and their work was such a great addition to the building. We tried to utilize the spaces created in between the classroom clusters for additional programs such as the staff workroom shown here. These spaces were really designed for flexibility so that they could adapt to the school's needs if they change over time. One of our major goals was to create a very open and engaging learning environment, and the North Clackamas School District and we as designers at BRIC came together to look for ways to capture the spirit of Beatrice Morrow Cannady's legacy throughout the school. I think everything from the artwork selection to the use of color and natural daylight were really ideas that were developed alongside the district to reflect Cannady's ability to engage and inspire.
Thanks again for joining us on this virtual tour of Beatrice Morrow Cannady Elementary School. Please look for future events on the A4LE website under the Oregon Southwest Washington chapter. We will strive to provide you a robust schedule of events and tours, even during these difficult times. Thanks again for watching, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Hello. Hopefully everyone could hear and see that.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah, quality was all right.
It was actually really good, Eric, which is great because we've had some bad experience with videos in our office recently on Zoom calls. So this worked out really well.
Nice. Well,
So I think we're opening up to questions, and feel free to type them in the Zoom chat. And then,
And while you guys are doing that, I was thinking one very notable feature, well, two very notable features. If you were admiring the stormwater treatment or the layout of the parking lot, you can thank Eric Melly for that. He was a civil engineer on the project. He was very modest. He did point that
thanks,
out.
Dan.
But the other amazing thing about this project, very unique in our experience over the past few years, is that this project was under budget at every phase, even at bidding. It was a traditional design bid build project, no CMGC. And somehow all that wood paneling and clear story windows, the glulam beams, it all stayed in the project throughout. So it's pretty amazing. I kept waiting for the VE hammer to fall, and it never happened.
yeah, so the budget was 23.5 million, and we came in just, I think it was really close, probably like 23 million and like 550,000. And the building, it opened last August. So it's been open for a little over a year now.
I know somebody else has a question.
Hey, Brett, this is Joe. I thought I'd at least ask, as a prototype project, what kind of stakeholder engagement was done, knowing it going in as a prototype? Did that change the approach, or how did that go with the various users?
I think it was very helpful to sit down with stakeholders and be able to walk through the prototype building and talk about what's working and where they saw could be improved. And so that part of the process was actually super helpful. So because we could always like point back to like another example and see, okay, that's where this is really working, and we don't need to change this part. And so that actually helped us a lot in the design process, and being able to, and also like just being able to like have that concrete thing to point to, but also we're like walking through because we were able to develop the design a lot quicker that way. We were able to like walk through models of the design and really hone in and focus in on a lot of the details early on in the process.
And so there's a question, was the two-story central library part of the original prototype? It was, and that's one of those things that we developed from the original prototype, because one of the things about North Clackamas is they don't really air condition their schools. And so natural ventilation is, or sort of an enhanced natural ventilation is important. And so one of the lessons from that previous school was that that two-story volume was not really effectively working as part of the mechanical system. And so that was a goal for interface on this one, was to improve that, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels actually a lot better in that school in Cannady than in the prototype school.
So yeah, that was, the library was, as that central piece, was really one of the core elements that they loved about the original school. And so that was a must-have for this school. And so our challenge was to how could we really improve on that and make it function a little bit better, just to keep it less noisy, and also, just as Dan mentioned, to keep the space more comfortable mechanically. It was steel framing and steel studs.
Brett, can you read the question before you answer it? Just
Okay,
the
sorry.
audio portion of this.
Yes.
Yeah, because the chat won't be there when we record.
All right. So we had a question on whether it was wood framing or steel studs and steel structure. So yes, steel structure throughout. And then another question regarding the furniture selection integral to the design from the beginning, or was it selected after construction had commenced? So we began the furniture selection during the design before but it was actually finalized during construction. So it was a little bit of both. Next question is, any programming discussions around the gym and cafeteria being completely separate spaces rather than connected? I don't think we had any discussions about integrating those two together. It was, I think that was probably also an element that we had carried over from Scouters Mountain, was the setup of the gymnasium. And it was really, that piece was always a separate component from the cafeteria. We never really had discussions where we could combine them together. Next question is, were there any sustainable goals or objectives? Yes. So the building, we never sought out to get a LEED certification, but it was an important component an important element of the design was to try to meet LEED silver goals. And so
add to that a little.
it was designed to be what we called LEED equivalent. So we tried to design the building so it would meet LEED certification, but we weren't going for that certification.
The district wanted to design, they wanted the design team to do everything that we would do if we were designing, but they didn't want to necessarily pursue everything on their end that they would need to actually, achieve LEED silver. So that was a little bit of a unique challenge, but that's a good question. It was basically designed to be LEED silver, but it'll never be recognized as such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next question is, what is the square footage you designed for? So we designed it around 63,000 square feet total. I think we were actually under that, but that was the goal we set out for. And next question, the surrounding site is heavily forested. Were there any site challenges? That is actually one of the major challenges on the project, was the site and fitting all of the building and the playground and stormwater management onto the site proved to be impossible initially. The site was quite a bit smaller than what we have now. We actually had to realized early on that we didn't have enough site, and we had arranged the purchase of an adjoining site to give us enough room. But even still, I think it was quite a challenge, because there's the site slopes quite a bit from the south end to the north end. Eric can probably talk to that a little bit more than I can, but I think stormwater management was quite a challenge.
Yeah, it does slope quite a bit down to a stream at the far north end, and we kind of took the road elevation and the front door elevation as the starting points, and just strive to get it as steep as possible to reduce cut and fills, but still make it ADA accessible. And it was right at 5% down from the street. And then
Yeah.
behind the school, on the north side, yeah, the swales and the pond. I mean, they're very curvilinear, S curving, just to fit in the 100-foot length in a small horizontal space. There's also wetlands at the far north that don't allow you to build all the way to the northern property line, and adjacent neighbors right there. So it was a challenge.
In the HCA zones where it was we had to plant a certain type of vegetation and not go into those zones to disturb the current existing vegetation. Next question. What is the student population of each pod, and has future expansion been incorporated? I don't think I can do the math off the top of my head, but I think that was around 150. So the school is divided up with kindergarten through second grade on the first level, and kindergarten occupies one corner, and then the upper levels are third grade through fifth grade. But because of the layout, there's no real opportunity for expansion of the school, and just the site itself probably wouldn't allow any future expansion of the classroom spaces unless we are taking away something like some of the open areas and playgrounds. Next question. Curious about the idea of prototypes for schools in general. If a different district came to you with a similar site and program and liked this project, would you suggest reusing, adapting the design? That's an interesting question. I think it's certainly, whenever we approach a new project, we look for precedents. And so I don't know if we necessarily would always suggest prototypes, but we would look for strong precedents either within the district or with outside of the district to suggest as guiding forces in the design. So I think it was very helpful and probably in this case allowed us to speed up the process and really dive into the details of the project a lot easier. Next question, traditional design, bid, build, CMGC. Isn't CMGC different from design, bid, build? How early was the contractor involved in the design schematics? So this was not a CMGC project. It was a design, bid, build. So the contractor was not involved in the design at all. Next question. Being a prototype, in what ways did the building adapt to the unique character of the site and the school culture? That is a great question. So yeah, as a prototype, is definitely we wanted to make a unique school. And so in a lot of ways it resembled the other school, but we wanted to be its own place. And so we really looked for ways to take what was done previously and give a unique spin on it, and also just take a look at the materials used throughout. And so we kind of employed the same strategies in terms of the opening up the building, but really it came down to interpreting the exterior forms and interior forms in just a totally different way. So it may resemble, I think, from the outside a little bit when you approach it, but I feel like they definitely look like completely different schools. Um, Although the plans themselves, when you walk around the classroom wing, you would see a lot of it, like functionally would just work the same way. Next question, was CLT used throughout or just the gym, more public part of the building? Was CLT a part of previous prototype or just this particular school? So the CLT decking was used very selectively in spaces that where we knew we were going to expose it because of the cost. We saw it as an opportunity to sort of use a local material as something that's manufactured here in Oregon, but we really wanted to be able to show it off, so it's not used like in every part of the building, only areas where we're planning to open it up. It's not part of the prototype, but the original school did have some exposed decking, although the decking was, I believe it was a totally different type of wood structure. I think it was just wood framing with probably plywood actually. So it is not as much of it is exposed in the school. Next question. Can you describe the unique features to the school that differ from the prototype or were a part of the prototype besides the library, as you already described, that community engagement led to or took ownership over? So I'm not sure that the community engagement, so is more stakeholder engagement in terms of how things changed from the prototype to this school. And I think a lot of that is not just the library, but the kind of the teaching spaces around the library. So these extended learning spaces and the spaces in between the classroom pods were really, we dove into and tried to like articulate those spaces so they, they were part of the library, but didn't really take away from the library. We also took a look at the, it's a lot about the way the spaces, the materials around the cafeteria, in a way the building, other parts of the building, like the gymnasium and cafeteria wing is rotated from the classroom wing. Part of that is to respond to the site constraints. So, and then also was to reduce the amount of circulation and give a lot of visibility into the spaces, because as we rotated the building around, it actually opened up views into the cafeteria as well as the hallway down to the gymnasium. Some of the other things that were different were probably the artwork that we really integrated into the design. So that was a part of the design process where we met with the stakeholders and the artists and actually selected the artwork in the design process and which artists we were going to use.
Yeah, I would just add that this was really unique in that there really was no community involvement. It's one of the few school projects I can say I've ever worked on where that was true. It really, our stakeholder group was primarily just the assistant superintendent we worked with who was in charge of the bond projects, and then the director of elementary ed who had been the principal at the original prototype when that was designed, and that was a bit more of a community process, I think. But we worked with a really small group. We worked with facility staff a little bit, but it was really unique in that it was fine tuning at kind of a high level. And even the principal wasn't involved, although she thoroughly embraced the building once she was selected to be the principal. But again, kind of unique in that the design team was very small.
Next question, does the program engage the stream and woodlands? We are essentially staying away from the stream and the woodlands, although the idea was to create open spaces around the north side of the building that responded to those areas, like more natural areas of the building. And so initially we were trying to incorporate some exterior learning areas into the project, but that became a challenge, just kind of trying to find the space to do it, and also fit everything in on site. But although we do have a courtyard in between the classroom wing and the gymnasium wing on the north side of the building, where the stair hall over kind of looks out onto a courtyard, where we integrated a stream bed that the stormwater actually drains into this steam bed, so the stream bed during the winter time when it's a lot rainier. So it actually becomes like an outdoor learning area a little bit, and different parts of the year. Next question, do you have any challenges working with CLT and glue lams as material of construction? Outdoor site storage, exposed to natural elements, procuring of materials. I don't think we had any challenges working with the CLT at all, actually. And the contractors really happy using it. I think they felt like it went like super quick and was like really easy for them to install. So I think it's a little bit more expensive, but I think installation wise, it went really quickly. I think probably the steel was a lot more of a challenge than the glue lam and CLT. Just procuring the steel and getting the drawings for the steel was a lot harder. In terms of site storage, I don't know that we stored any of that on the site for very long before it got installed. I do remember the CLT being stacked up in the parking lot for a little bit, but it wasn't on site for very long before they installed it. And so it wasn't really an issue to keep it dry. I think that is all of our current questions, unless there's anybody else.
That looks like it. Yeah, thank you so much, Brett. That was awesome, and it's great working
We're
with you
happy
too.
to share it. Maybe we could do it again in the future in the actual school.
Yeah. Yep. The hope is, we're kind of scheduling out till April and seeing what happens after that point for virtual tours, but we're going to try to provide potentially more than one a month. So keep your eyes on those invites, and so glad everyone attended. This is a great group. Guess we'll all talk soon.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Dan.